Hey y'all, Lisa Davis here, the Trusted Banker, and I want to talk about the Scott Turner's confirmation hearing with the Senate. I want you guys to listen to this recording, and then we're going to talk about affordable housing. So let's tune in.
At the same time, the current administration has championed these de facto subsidies like tax credits, down payment assistance, and looser lending policies, which obviously will stimulate demand, but at the same time, have they pursued various regulatory policies that have had the effect of constraining supply. And we all know what happens when you constrain supply and you stimulate demand, prices go up. So we've seen massive inflation, not only in the cost of homes, but in rent. And I think that's been a big driver of the inflation that we suffered. So I really want to understand how you're thinking about affordability of housing and supply of housing in the context of this supply and demand dynamic.
Listen to this answer.
Thank you, Senator Haggard. It's great to see you again. And yes, we do have a affordability crisis. Regulatory reform, both from the federal government and the state government, is much needed.
I want us to be prepared to hear regulatory reform over and over and over again over the next 4 years. And I say let them have it. Let them have it. Let them deregulate and do reform over all the regulations they want to, and really let them dig their holes deep with the things that they want to do. We need to let people learn that fat meat greasy. We need to let people learn fat meat greasy and get out the way, Democrats. Get out the way, people. Let them do what they need to do. But listen.
We want to make it more flexible and easier for developers to build affordable workforce attainable housing across our country. And so if confirmed by this committee, one thing that I want to do, which is top priority, is look at all the regulatory burdens from the federal side, and also to work with localities and states to see how we can ease those burdens so developers can build, and so that the supply goes up as the demand goes up, because right now we're not meeting that demand.
Yeah.
So I want to stop it right here because, first of all, I just want to say that people aren't buying houses because they can't afford the homes. And it's not that they can't afford to buy the homes because of the price point. They can't afford to buy the homes because minimum wage has not gone up in 30 years. Minimum wage is $7.25. And as that being a law, anytime anybody can get away with paying you the law, the federal requirement of what they need to pay you, why would they go up so much from there? I think we're approaching this problem from the wrong place, especially as a banker that's been in the industry over 25 years and worked in housing. The problem is not that houses cost too much and that we need to deregulate how developers are able to build houses more affordably. Because what is that really saying? Are we going to deregulate the safety requirements? Are we going to deregulate inspector requirements? Are we going to deregulate the permits? Are we going to deregulate the materials so that the materials are not as sturdy? The deregulating into making affordable housing is not where the problem lies. I worked for a developer. My consulting company was contracted with a developer in 2024. And my job was to raise funds for down payment assistance because the developer had received grant funds to build affordable housing in a place where there hadn't been any affordable housing built in over 30 years. Great project, loved working with the developer. The problem was after we crunched the numbers and the housing was going up for market, maybe around 220,000, which is affordable. In order to meet affordability requirements based on earning requirements and income requirements, we needed to give each home buyer $100,000 or more down payment to subsidize the cost of the house in order to make it affordable so they could afford it on their income. And they still couldn't afford it on their income, but based on HUD's requirements of the lower income levels and what they say is a livable wage, because $7.25 is the starting point. So a livable wage in your state or city is based on what HUD determines is a livable wage. And then from there, they look at the average median income and how much people make in that city and then get an average. And then from there, they do multipliers and different formulas to figure out, well, this is what the upper majority is making, and this is what the lower majority is making. And normally the lower majority is making 80% or 60% of the average of that city, or of that city, of that area. And so based on that, based on people, and then poverty falls about 25 to 30%, right? So, based on the calculations that HUD uses to determine what income levels require additional subsidy, down payment incentives, and things like that, they have a formula that they figured out based on the income levels that they use through calculating data to figure out what is the median, what is the middle, what is the average amount of income that people make, and then from that, 60% is low income. And again, even at 60% being low income, so let's say 60% means if somebody makes $35,000 in this area, they are considered low income. $30,000 a year is not enough to buy a new home. In some areas, lower income might be $50,000. That is not enough income to purchase a $200,000 home and have a vehicle or transportation to get to work and be able to live, have a good standard quality of life. With minimum wage staying at $7.25, $7.25 times 40 is $290 times 52 weeks is $15,080. This is an acceptable wage based on what the federal government decides is a livable wage. $7.25 an hour is good for minimum wage. Being in the housing market over 25 years, some of the houses that used to be $25,000 20 years ago is now $200,000. But minimum wage 30 years ago was $3.35, and now it's only $7.25. So housing went up 1,000%, and income went up. They only doubled it. It went up. They multiplied by two, so 2%. The problem is not in cutting the regulation so that it's more affordable for developers to build a house, because no matter how much you cut it, right? We were building homes in this subdivision at bare minimum with lots of tax credits, subsidies, brownfield subsidies, environment, like all types of subsidies and monies given in by the government. And still the cost to build the house was too much to sell the house to the community the house was being built for, because the community the house was being built for, considered low income by the federal government standards, is so low it can't afford anything in this day and age. Again, $7.25 an hour is $15,000 a year. Our federal government believes that people can live off of that wage, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. So when I was in the process of having to build to create a fund, excuse me, when my consulting company was hired to build the fund, to build the fund and establish dollars within this fund, millions and millions of dollars to give home buyers down payment assistance, we still needed the state down payment assistance of 10,000 and 25,000, and we were still trying to build a fund that would grant $100,000 to a future home buyer so they could afford to buy the house and keep it in affordability. When the government is not, this government, the last governments over the last 20 years has not seemed to understand that minimum wage needs to go up. It is not the cost of building homes. It is not deregulating the process to build homes, the process for the developer, the materials, none of that. We need people to have a livable wage in 2025 when home prices start at 300,000, 200,000, 700,000 for a starter home. This is just, we seem to not understand, or politicians seem to not understand, there are no more $30,000 homes for somebody to buy in any kind of communities, especially a new build. And if the person, Scott Turner, that's being confirmed for the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, is talking about new construction versus making sure that the affordable housing that we have is still safe. Right now, we have affordable housing that has been already built 10, 15, 20 years ago. And the problem with it, it needs to be updated. They need to be renovated. They need to be painted. They need to be debugged. They need to be repaired. They need new roofs. So for him to come in into the budgetary constrictions that he has been given, because the Republicans want to make sure that they do not increase spending. They do not want to increase spending. They want to keep spending tapped down, right? That's their premise. And for you to come in and say you want to deregulate the industry around home ownership to make sure that building homes is more cost effective and is going to be less expensive for developers, that you feel like that's the problem. That is not the problem, because you can build houses all day. We have 770,000 homeless people. We have 770,000 homeless people. Obviously, we don't have, if I look at the stats, we don't have a problem with um, inventory. We have a problem with inventory people can afford. Why do we have a problem with inventory people can afford? Because we don't pay people minimum. We don't pay people a livable wage. We have people going to college right now to get a 4-year degree. They come out of college with $100,000 debt, and they're making $50,000 or $60,000 a year. That is not enough money to buy a house or $250,000. Have transportation, eat healthy food, make sure your children go to a good school, make sure that you're able to take a vacation or time off, make sure that you're able to enjoy entertainment and have a quality of life, make sure that you're able to go back and get educated. That $50,000 a year is not a lot of money in this day and age, because everything has gone up except wages. We got our kids believing into the the prophecy of, if you go to college and get a good education, you'll come out of college with a great job and great income, when most of these companies are hiring people out of college at 40, 50, and $60,000. My entire career, over 25 years, I have not seen starting wages for college graduates go over 40 or $50,000, and that is ridiculous. People should be coming out of college. If they got $100,000 debt, they should have a degree that's going to earn them $100,000 starting pay, so that they could be up at $200,000 at least within 5 years. So we don't have an affordability problem as far as housing is concerned. We have an affordability problem as far as wages are concerned. And they can keep talking about all these things and deregulating and making it less costly. I'm reading the article on my phone right now. It says Scott Turner, who's up for confirmation, is also saying that the cost of construction materials can be lowered by getting the fiscal house in order. I don't care how much you get the cost of construction materials in order, it'll never be back to the 1980 rates. So if we can't get construction costs to the 1980 rates, then you got to get the wages out of the 1980 rates, because the wood is so expensive now, and some wood is starting to become not available as much, right? So cost of construction materials are going to be expensive unless you jeopardize safety and quality when you start talking about how to build homes for affordable people. And then here we go again, going back into our history that we don't pay attention to. When we first started building affordable housing, if they started being deemed the projects, and they started putting black folks in this affordable housing, and these affordable houses were looking like mini prisons all over all the urban areas, because they didn't want to put a lot into it. They didn't believe people in affordable housing needed to have any aesthetics, needed to have any greenscape, needed to have any greenland, needed to have sizable rooms, needed to be able to have privacy, needed to be able to have not everybody confined in a tall box of a million people living in one housing unit. We got past that as we grew up, as the country started to grow up. But now, if he's talking about deregulating so that the cost of construction goes down, does that also mean that the quality is going to go down now that we have people being able to buy affordable homes that look like nice homes in nice communities? Are we going to go back to that? Because you can't build a home in today's age, not now, not anywhere, for under $250,000 for a family of three or four. Where can you build that? And what costs can you cut? Because you can't build it for 100,000. Ask any insurance company. There are no replacement costs under 200,000. If there are, please show me, but definitely not in major urban areas. And you think about somewhere like LA, those starter homes start at a million, basically, started at 700,000. Midwest started 300,000. Down southwest started 400,000. So where are you going to find people that can afford homes if you don't raise the wages? And I just really think that we really need to have real serious conversations around this, because affordable housing is not affordable because people don't make a livable wage. Not because the house isn't affordable. You have utilities on top of that. You have property taxes on top of that. You have homeowners insurance on top of that. You have mortgage insurance on top of that. You have care and maintenance on top of that. There is not a way anybody making $15,000 or $7.25 or $15 an hour or $18 an hour or $20 an hour. There is no way people can afford a new built home, which you're saying that's going to be your focus, being the manager of HUD, being the director of HUD. That's going to be your focus, to make sure that we get enough inventory out here. People are choosing to be homeless because it costs less money to live in their car than it does to live in a home. Think about that, Scott Turner. Think about that. And this is not just a Republican problem or a Democratic problem. These are the politicians' problems that have not tackled the real problem, meaning giving Americans, all Americans, $30 an hour minimum wage. That needs to be where it starts, because $30 an hour, and I know probably some people think, oh, that's too much, that's too much. We got billionaires out here. In the sentence, $30 an hour is 1,200 a week times 52 weeks. That's only $62,400 a year. This should be the minimum wage. Nobody should have to start a job less than $60,000 a year, because in this country, you can't afford to live less than that. Not comfortably, not anywhere. So we need to get it together. I don't care if Republicans or Democrats are in office. All the politicians, we need to really just look at, like, the whole system is broken. Nobody is listening. Nobody is thinking critically. Nobody is understanding how people are suffering. And nobody is really tackling the true problem, which is people are not making enough money to live. Period, point blank, done. All right, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts if you're a developer, if you understand construction, the cost of construction, building new homes. If you live in a state where new homes don't cost $250,000 or $300,000 for a new build for a starter home. If you live in a state where the starter homes maybe $100,000, I would love to hear from you, because in being in this business all these years, in the last 5 years, I haven't found any communities that have starter homes and like at $100,000. They're not necessarily rural. Let's not go too rural, but like in major cities, urban cities. These are the cities, right? Urban cities, major cities, where we have a homelessness problem. So if you live in a rural area and you have a homeless problem, let me know. But most homeless problems are in big cities, big major cities. So my name is Lisa Davis. I am the trusted banker. This is the news for today, and I will talk to y'all later.